Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be briefing certain terms and exceptions in chess such as stalemate, checkmate, end passing, castling, draw, and so on. Starting off with checkmate, I'll be using the help of an example to help you all understand what checkmate is. You all will probably never get this position in an actual game, but it's just an example. So say white plays e4, black plays f6, and then white plays d3, black plays g5, queen h5. Now queen h5, as y'all can see, is attacking the king. Say you are playing a game and you see that your piece is attacking the king, you would say check. The king now has to move. It's not necessary for the king to move all the time. It could also block the check. I'll show you how. Say the pawn was on g7 and it hadn't moved. Now black could simply push the pawn and now it blocks the check. But since the pawn is on g5 in this position, black has no other alternative but to move the king. However, the king cannot move now because it has no squares. The only square to move is here, king f7, but even if it moves, it's still under check. This is a checkmate, basically when the king has no squares to move. I'll show you all another example. So now, say e4, e5, queen f3, knight c6, bishop c4. So now say that you are playing for black, you should already have an idea. Why would white play bishop c4? See where both these pieces are attacking. Both these pieces are attacking the same square that's on f7. So if you were black, you could play something like knight f6 just to block the queen's attack. Or you could play queen e7 to support this pawn. So now even if the bishop takes or the queen takes, you can capture it back. So white would be down a piece or something like that. Or you could just simply push this pawn. There are many ways to defend this. But let's say black played d6. Now white can simply capture this piece with the queen. Now the king has no squares to move. It cannot capture the queen because the bishop is supporting it. And this is also a checkmate. Next is stalemate. Stalemate usually occurs towards the end of the game or when there are very less pieces in the board. Stalemate is basically when the king has no squares to move, but it's not a check. I'll show you an example. Let's say the black queen was here. Here you can see that black is obviously winning. It's a queen up, and it could be a checkmate very easily. But black chooses to play queen b3. Now you can see that white has no squares to move. The queen is controlling a2, b1, b2, and all the squares around it. And the king cannot move to b1, b2, or a2. So basically here, the king has no squares to move, but you can also see that black is not checking the king. This is a stalemate. I'll show you another example. In this next position, you can see now it's black that's losing, and white is like black has a rook, white has a queen, and white is obviously better. It's black chance to play, and black has no squares to move. Black cannot move to c8 because the queen is controlling that square. It cannot move to b7 because the pawn is controlling that square. Cannot move to c7 either because the pawn on d6 is controlling the square. The rook has no squares to move because the king is blocking it from this side, the pawn is blocking it from the front. And also the pawn has no squares to move because the white pawn is blockading it from the front. This is another example of a stalemate. Now in a stalemate, if a stalemate occurs, both black and white will get half points each. It's a draw basically. Moving on to a draw. A draw can occur in many ways. The first one is when there's insufficient material for both white and black. Insufficient material means both of you don't have enough pieces to checkmate the other side. This is basically when black has, say, a knight and a king, or a bishop and a king, and white has just a king, or the same like bishop and a king, or knight or king. You cannot checkmate the other. You can even check this on your own. try to checkmate the other side with just a bishop or just a knight. You cannot do it. Next is when both of the sides, white and black, mutually agree to have a draw. Now, y'all can agree to have a draw at any stage of the game. It could be the starting, the middle of the game, towards the end of the game, but it should be a mutual decision. But if the other person does not agree for a draw, you have to continue playing the game. So here you can see, say it is white's chance, and now you can see that black is winning because it has a piece up. White can just capture the bishop, the king will capture, and this is a draw because of insufficient material. Another way for a draw is threefold repetition, which means both white and black play the same moves 3 times in a row, like one after the other. So in this position, as you can see, white is clearly better because it has a queen. In change of a queen, black has a rook. So say the rook was on h8 and here the king is on d1. It's black's chance to play. Black clearly knows that there's like very less scope for black to win and he wants a draw. White cannot even avoid it because now it's black's chance. Black will play rook h1, check. There's no way to block this check, the king has to move. The king can either move to e2 or d2. Say move to e2. Rook will play check again. The king cannot move to f3 because of the bishop here. So it has to move back. It could move to f1. The rook will give a check again. Now it cannot move to g2 again because of the bishop. So it'll have to go back. Rook h2. And it'll just keep giving checks like this. Say it escapes to d2, it cannot escape to c3 because of the pawn. So it's trapped between these two ranks and black will continuously give check and this would just go on the entire game. So they have to go for a draw. If they repeat all these moves 3 times, it's a draw. Next is pawn promotion. You're in the end game when there are less pieces on the board. Your main objective is to promote your pawn and start pushing your pawn towards the other side of the board. So if you're white, you would push your pawn towards the black side, and if you're black, you push the pawn towards the white side. So now say you are pushing the pawn, you can now capture this pawn. You can keep pushing your pawn till the very end, and when it's the last square, now you can do a very special thing. You can promote this pawn to any piece you like, a queen, rook, bishop or knight. Of course, you cannot promote it to a pawn or a king. Most people opt for a queen. However, you can sometimes even go for a bishop and knight depending on the position. And now once you've promoted, it's black's chance. They can move and now you can use your queen to checkmate the king. The same thing applies for black. Say the position was something like this. Black can now push their pawn to promote to whatever piece they like and use now, since they promoted to a rook, they can use the rook to checkmate the white king. Moving on to castling. Castling is something that's very important in the game because it helps to make sure that your king is protected throughout the game, and it kind of helps you keep your king safe from any attack from the other side. Let me show you how. This is a very common opening in most matches. And now as you all can see here, the f and g squares are free. And now white can move the king 2 squares to g and the rook to f, and all this is just one move. But you can castle and now your king is safe. It has your rook and these 3 pawns to keep it safe. However, if you've moved your king or rook once throughout this, like once till now, you cannot castle. Say you've moved your king here or you've moved your rook here, you cannot castle the normal way now. Another way of castling is the long side castling. This is the short side castling. Say you had moved your queen, your rook, your knight. Now you can castle on this side. The king would move again 2 squares and the rook would move 1, 2, 3 squares to d. This is called the long side castling. Now, when you write the moves down, when you record these moves, you would write short side castling as O dash O and long side castling as O dash O dash O. Next is n%. Usually, when the pawn captures any other piece, it captures it like this. However, using the n% rule, say the pawn was on the 5th rank and black decides to push their pawn twice. White can capture in this manner. The same applies for black. If they were, say, over here on the 4th rank and white pushes the pawn twice, black can capture in this way. That's the end of the video. I hope this video helped you all. If you all have any doubts, please feel free to ask them down below in the comments. Bye. Thank you.